So I wanted to come and kind of pitch you guys an idea really quickly, and I know it's been a little bit of a while since I uploaded, primarily because I am moving rooms and readjusting my books behind me for background, which I want to have right before I click record because it's, of course, a barrier to entry for me. But I wanted to pitch an idea real quickly. So with Crownling Entertainment, which is my creative media company, one of our priorities has always been looking at the ways in which stories can impact readers and viewers or people who are experiencing those pieces of fiction and stories in a way that is really impactful to those people, and whether that's be just simply writing good books, producing visual medias, such as shows, television series. Eventually is one of our goals as well, but primarily for me it's just continually going to be putting out written word as well. But one of the things that we think is really important is education. We want to eventually set up grants for that kind of thing, but a big thing that I'm prioritizing as a personal project, which I hope to eventually bring on other people to work with me and do that in the coming year or two to get the beta version running, is an edutainment department. So an edutainment department would be prioritizing education that is fun and engaging, that is also prioritizing the students' learning. So this would look like, I'm going to rant for a little bit here, hopefully this is semi-interesting, I don't know if it is. This would look like using interactive fiction as what I think would be the best way to do this. So essentially our goal is to build a interactive fiction tool that licenses out textbooks and uses real human writers to take those textbooks and parse each chapter and each section of knowledge that needs to be learned by each student down into a curriculum that then a human-guided AI will follow. Eventually I want to put out kind of my standpoint, or where I stand really on using AI for writing and for creativity. For me, I've always been against writing your books with AI. I'm not going to be angry against to people who do. I simply don't see it as enjoyable. I don't like writing with AI. I really enjoy writing, and that's something I never want to really lose. And so, but for this project, I think it is valid because we can't have interactive fiction writers. We cannot hire people to write every single piece of story for every student. So the idea would be we'd license it out. Humans would take those textbooks and parse those down into action steps and requirements for AI to go through. And then probably using Claude Sonnet, we would build a workflow, and this is what we're trying to get funding for right now through different grants and possibly a Indiegogo soon, is building a both back-end and front-end UI for a program that uses Sonnet or some other LLM, large language model, and takes the curriculum that we've licensed. Hopefully we will be able to make some agreement with some of these publishing companies that does textbooks. You know, textbook publishers can be a bit finicky. And the goal would be to then take this and run it through a workflow that takes those curriculum that has been laid out by the humans and surveys a student based upon their interest on a certain subject matter as well as their interest in stories. We are looking into the copyright uses right now of being able to take and just reference, like, do you like Marvel? Do you like Harry Potter? Do you like Star Wars? And then go deeper and deeper niche-wise into what they know and what they enjoy fiction-wise. If we're able to do that as a survey, which I believe we are without doing any copyright infringement, which is very nice, and then having AI go through, plot out different initial story paths, and essentially have a program that is updating manually, kind of in a Twine interactive fiction sense where it has multiple choice trees going down and down and down, but in each one it is essential that it is engaging the student through custom means where it is fitting the story to their interests, using high concept premises as well, and then also not manually, but creatively integrating ways in which you would show the textbook and teach the student those things. So say you were doing a math problem that was essential for the student to learn this principle of mathematics. You could do some sort of keypad level inside the story where they had to essentially enter the correct combination, the correct equations to pass it. Of course, there is a lot of thought that needs to go into how to make even the most rudimentary of processes and these pieces of information that aren't quite as fun to learn engaging for the viewers, or rather, sorry, the students and players. Let's not call them students, let's call them players. It sounds just more fun, and we really want them to be players. We want them to play while they learn, teach them how to learn instead of what to learn. So that is kind of one of our priorities. also as a company branch, eventually Crownling Edutainment. Not education, but edutainment. It is still educating, but it is entertaining primarily. That is the priority. But through that, it's a great bonus if we can engage those players. So the idea would be they're simply playing through textbooks in very fun, interesting ways that are custom to them. As I said, the back end, which would be on the developer's side and on the writer's side. So the goal would be also to have human writers on the back end coming in and looking at what the AI has done, the plot that it's laid out, like, okay, I'm eventually going to integrate this essential learning block for my player at this point in the story. Here's what I'm thinking. The human writers can go in and be like, okay, actually, I think let's change this. And the goal would also be for students to interact with teachers as well, where teachers are able to go in and be like, okay, I've talked with my student and I've interacted with them in these ways, so I think he's really going to enjoy this rather than this. So offering maybe multiple options per tree and branch to teachers and back-end developers as well. Not really developers, narrative developers like developmental editors essentially, which I think would be awesome having eventually in the future. And right now we're talking about a beta version, which would go through testing and research primarily and not be integrated publicly. The goal would be to eventually have a public integrated version that is legal to educate with for homeschooling purposes. And eventually, a big goal for me is maybe trying to form a school to not necessarily test this out. We would hopefully have a bunch of tests run by them, but also be able to see if it can work on a mass scale with a bunch of different students going through this program. And that is just really exciting for me because I've kind of always been a bit of a homeschool nerd and activist, who's also had both worlds, the homeschool and the public school. So I'm just really passionate about that. So the goal for us is to get funding for this project from now till somewhere around 2026. We are trying to figure out if we're going to be able to use automated workflows instead of having to build our own integration processes, which we probably will have to do. So that would be about $25,000 is the amount that we're looking at having to do to hire developers and build that first version. And if we were able to build that, the goal would be to then work with one of my local schools here where I live and have two different test groups of students. So the first group of students would go through 4 different textbooks, which we had also licensed out for the interactive story, adventures for the players, and they would learn it from college professors. So who would be teaching them in groups or pods, as I like to refer to them, for a course of 2 months. So that is our test group. They take a college level test on both of those textbooks, which are college textbooks, by the way, although we will have to figure out what the transition is from students who are in, say, middle school to a college level. It may simply have to be middle school textbooks, but taught by college teachers, I think, is a priority for me because it is lecture-based, which is what we need more of if we are not going to transition to a more automated system like this is. So that is our test group. They will take a test at the beginning and at the end to measure their progress, learning level, percentage-wise. And then our non-test group, our non-control group, as it would be, really, they are using the interactive programs and going through those textbooks. So they are actually able to choose which of the 4 textbooks they want to go through, much as there were actually 4 different classes with the test group, but those test scores are still the same, which could be a problem with our scoring, but we'll have to figure that out later. So the goal is for this first version to really just test, does it have any impact on the learning level? I believe it will. If it doesn't, I don't think it'll be a waste of money because I think it would be really interesting, even if it's even minute, the advancement in learning, it is still equal to those teachers. So eventually, even if it was only a minute advancement in learning, I think it would still be worth pursuing as a edutainment company. There's an alarm going off in the background. I hope you can't hear that. But yeah, that was the idea that I had, and I've been working on actively for a while. Part of me is like ADD. I should actually be working on a website for a writers group thing. That means some friends are putting together within my state, but I will do that later. I also tested out a little bit of this. I'm looking at trying to figure out how we can use automated workflows rather than having to pay developers to build all of our user interfaces as well as the back-end code and integrations. So I built a really quick little fun tool that I want you guys to try out if you would like. It is called the Interactive Fiction email. So actually, if you email interactivefictionemail@gmail.com, I have rigged it so that it will go to a chatbot, start an interactive fiction story, and send you the options and the story. and you send it what option you would like. It emails you right back. Every 2 minutes is about what it is after you answer, because I couldn't afford the more expensive version of running that. And yeah, it's just a fun tool. Again, ADD, I should have been doing something else, but I decided to do that. But really, this is kind of our first project to test the concept a tiny bit. And I just really kind of had it heavy on my heart to share this idea with you guys, even though we're going to be developing it either way. So thank you for hearing me out. I do have a free gift for you guys, which is This Bleeding Light. It is a free short story that I wrote specifically just to give away, to see how many copies I could give away. You'd be surprised how many people don't want free stuff. So if you want free stuff, there's a link to it in the description. So thank you for hearing me out. You guys are the best. Blessings.